You ever notice how the thing that's supposed to make your life easier always ends up owning a little piece of you? I'm not talking about convenience. I'm talking about something darker. The smartphone in your pocket knows where you sleep. The smart TV in your living room listens to your arguments with your spouse. The car you bought last year won't let you change the oil without a software update. And somewhere, in a server farm in Virginia or Nevada, all of that information sits in a database with your name on it. This isn't paranoia. This is the business model. And if you think I'm about to tell you that old tech, the kind of analog, mechanical, disconnected machines your grandfather used, is just nostalgia, you're wrong. What I'm about to tell you is that rejecting the upgrade might be the only financial defense you have left. Because the game isn't about selling you a product anymore. It's about selling you over and over again until there's nothing left to extract. Let me paint you a picture. It's a Tuesday night. You're sitting in your living room and your phone buzzes. An ad for running shoes. You weren't shopping for running shoes, but yesterday you mentioned to your wife that your knees hurt. You said it out loud. In your kitchen. Your phone was on the counter. Now, you might think that's a coincidence, but the advertising algorithm doesn't deal in coincidences. It deals in surveillance. That buzz, that ad, that perfectly timed suggestion, it's not magic. It's the end result of a system that has spent 70 years learning how to get inside your head. And the only reason it works is because you let a piece of network technology into your home. Your grandfather didn't have that problem. His rotary phone sat on the wall. It did one thing. It let him talk to people. It didn't listen when he wasn't using it. It didn't sell his voice to the highest bidder. It didn't track his location or monitor his breathing patterns while he slept. And that's the point. Old tech didn't need to. Because old tech was a tool. New tech is a landlord. The upgrade cycle is a lie. But it's a lie that's been polished and refined since the mid-20th century. And to understand why it works, you have to go back to a very specific moment in American history. 1929. The stock market collapses. Factories shut down. Unemployment hits 25%. The country is on its knees. And in the middle of all that despair, a group of very smart, very cynical men in corporate boardrooms had a problem. The problem was simple. Americans had stopped buying things. Not because they didn't want things, but because they couldn't afford them. And worse, the things they already owned, the cars, the appliances, the tools, those things were built to last. A washing machine from 1928 could run for 20 years if you took care of it. A car from that era, if you knew your way around an engine, could be repaired indefinitely. And that was a nightmare for manufacturers. Because a product that lasts forever is a product you only sell once. So they came up with a solution. Planned obsolescence. The idea was revolutionary in its cruelty. Instead of building a product to last, you build it to fail. Not immediately, that would be too obvious, but just outside the warranty period. You design the failure into the product. A gear that wears down. A battery that can't be replaced. A software update that bricks the old model. And once the product fails, the customer has no choice but to buy again. It's a perpetual revenue stream. But the real genius, the thing that made this system unstable and vicious, wasn't just planned obsolescence. It was the creation of desire, manufactured dissatisfaction, making people feel like the thing they owned, even if it worked perfectly, was somehow inadequate, outdated, embarrassing. This wasn't an accident. In 1932, A man named Bernard London wrote an essay called Ending the Depression Through Planned Obsolescence. He argued quite openly that the government should mandate the destruction of old goods to force consumption. It didn't happen that way, not officially, but the idea took root in the corporate world like a virus. By the 1950s, it was everywhere. General Motors started changing car designs every year, not because the engineering improved, but because they wanted last year's model to look old. Fashion became a weapon. If you drove a 53 Chevy in 55, you weren't just driving an older car. You were announcing to the world that you couldn't keep up, that you were falling behind. And that feeling, that anxiety, was worth billions. The 1950s were the golden age of American consumerism, but they were also the moment when the trap was set. The economy boomed, factories churned out goods, families moved to the suburbs and filled their homes with appliances, gadgets, furniture. Everything was new, everything was modern, and everything was designed to be replaced. Television became the delivery mechanism for this ideology. Ads didn't just sell products, they sold a lifestyle, a vision of the future where you could buy your way into happiness. The housewife in the commercial didn't just need a new refrigerator. She needed it to feel complete, to feel like she was doing right by her family, and her husband, watching the same ads, learned that his worth was tied to his ability to provide those things. The car in the driveway, the lawnmower in the garage, the color TV in the living room. This was the American dream, and it was built on debt and obsolescence. But here's what they didn't tell you. The products from that era, the ones that weren't deliberately designed to fail, they were tanks. A KitchenAid mixer from 1952 still works today. A Triumph motorcycle from 1969, if you maintain it, will outlive you. A cast iron skillet from any decade will outlast your grandchildren. These weren't anomalies. This was the standard. Things were made from metal, from wood, from materials that had weight and permanence, and they were made by people who understood that a product was a reflection of their craft. But that model didn't scale. It didn't generate quarterly growth. It didn't satisfy shareholders. So, it had to die. By the 1980s, the transformation was complete. Manufacturing moved overseas. Quality control became a cost center to minimize. Plastic replaced metal. Glue replaced screws. Circuits replaced gears. And the product life cycle shrank from decades to years. A microwave from 1990 might last 15 years. A microwave from 2010 might last 5. A microwave from today might last 3, if you're lucky. And when it breaks, you don't fix it, because the cost of repair, the difficulty of even finding someone who knows how to repair it, exceeds the cost of replacement. So you throw it away, you buy a new one, and the cycle continues. Now let's talk about what this does to you. Not to the economy, not to the environment, to you personally, on a psychological and financial level. Every time you upgrade, you're not just spending money, you're surrendering autonomy. When you owned a 1970 Ford, you could pop the hood and see the engine. You could understand it. If something broke, you could fix it, or you could take it to a mechanic who could fix it. The knowledge was accessible. The parts were available. You had control. When you own a 2024 Tesla, you don't own anything. You own a license to use a computer on wheels. The software is proprietary. The parts are serialized. If something breaks, you can't fix it. Only Tesla can fix it. And they'll charge you whatever they want because you have no alternative. You're not a customer anymore. You're a subscriber. And the subscription never ends. This extends to everything: your phone, your laptop, your thermostat, your doorbell. Every device in your home that connects to the internet is a device you don't fully control, because control requires access, and access requires knowledge, and knowledge requires transparency. And transparency is the one thing these companies will never give you. The code is closed. The schematics are hidden. The terms of service, that thing you clicked "I agree" on without reading, it gives them the right to change the rules whenever they want. They can break your device with an update. They can disable features you paid for. They can harvest your data and sell it to brokers, insurers, governments. And you can't stop them because you already agreed. But here's the thing they don't want you to realize. You can still say no. Not to all of it, not completely, but enough to matter. Because old tech, the kind that's been sitting in thrift stores and estate sales and your parents' garage, that tech is still out there. And it still works. A film camera from 1970 doesn't need a subscription. A vinyl record player from 1980 doesn't send your listening habits to Spotify. A mechanical typewriter doesn't have autocorrect or cloud backup or any connection to the surveillance grid. It just works. And it will keep working long after your laptop becomes a paperweight. I know what you're thinking. This sounds like nostalgia, like some romanticized vision of a past that wasn't actually better. And you're partly right. The past wasn't better. Indoor plumbing is good. Antibiotics are good. I'm not telling you to live like a pioneer, but I am telling you that somewhere between the rotary phone and the smartphone, we crossed a line. We traded ownership for access. We traded privacy for convenience. We traded autonomy for the promise that someone else would take care of the complicated stuff. And that trade, that Faustian bargain, it's killing us. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, a subscription at a time, an update at a time, a terms of service agreement at a time. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Richard. Richard is in his 60s. He lives in rural Pennsylvania. He drives a 1987 Chevy pickup, manual transmission, carburetor, no computer. When something breaks, he fixes it. He has a workshop in his barn with tools his father left him. He doesn't own a smartphone. He has a flip phone, the kind you can buy at a gas station for $20. It makes calls. It sends texts. That's it. He doesn't have social media. He doesn't stream movies. He reads books, physical books. He listens to the radio, AM radio, the kind that still works when the power goes out. And here's the thing about Richard. He's not poor. He's not uneducated. He worked as an engineer for 30 years. He understands technology probably better than you do. But he made a choice. He looked at the trajectory, the direction things were heading, and he decided to step off the treadmill. And you know what he told me? He said he sleeps better than he has in decades. Because he's not waiting for the next update, the next bill, the next thing to break. He owns his life. And that ownership, that independence, it's worth more than any app or gadget or convenience. Now, I'm not saying you need to become Richard. Most people can't. We're too deep in the system. Our jobs require us to have smartphones. Our social lives exist on platforms we don't control. But you can move in that direction. You can start making choices that prioritize ownership over access, durability over novelty, privacy over convenience. And the first step is recognizing that the upgrade isn't an upgrade. It's a trap. Every new version of the software, every new model of the device, is designed to make the old one obsolete. not because the old one stopped working, but because the new one creates an artificial dependency. And once you see that pattern, once you really see it, you can't unsee it. Here's what this looks like in practice. You don't need the latest iPhone. You need a phone that works. And a phone from 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it still works. The camera might not be as good, the processor might be slower, but it makes calls, it sends messages, it does the things a phone is supposed to do. And if you take care of it, if you don't drop it in the toilet or let the battery swell, it'll keep doing those things for years. The same goes for your computer. A laptop from 2015, if you put Linux on it, if you strip out the bloatware and the spyware, it's faster and more reliable than most new machines. Because it's not constantly phoning home. It's not running background processes to sell your data. It's just a computer. And that's all you need. This applies to everything. Furniture. Buy used. Buy solid wood. Avoid particle board and press board, the stuff that falls apart after 5 years. Appliances. Look for old brands. The ones built before the corporations bought them out and moved production to China. A Maytag washer from the 80s will outlast anything you can buy at Home Depot today. Tools. Buy once, buy quality. A Craftsman wrench from 1970 has a lifetime warranty. A wrench from today is made in a factory where the workers are paid pennies and the metal is soft and the warranty is a lie. Clothing. Buy natural fibers, cotton, wool, linen. Avoid synthetic blends. They don't breathe, they don't last. They shed microplastics into the water supply every time you wash them. And they're designed, just like everything else, to fall apart so you have to buy more. The financial argument here is obvious. If you spend $200 on a pair of boots that last 20 years, you've spent less than if you buy $20 boots every year for 20 years. But the real savings isn't just money. It's time. It's mental energy. It's the freedom from constantly having to replace things, from constantly having to research the next purchase, from constantly having to navigate the maze of planned obsolescence and manufactured desire. When you own things that last, you stop being a consumer. You stop feeding the machine. And that, more than anything, is what terrifies them. Because the system depends on your participation. It depends on you believing that new is better, that upgrading is necessary, that you need the latest thing to be relevant, to be successful, to be happy. And as long as you believe that, they own you. They own your wallet. They own your data. They own your attention. But the moment you stop believing it, the moment you realize that you don't need any of it, you become ungovernable. You become a ghost in their system, and there's nothing they can do about it. This is why they fight so hard against the right to repair. In 2024, John Deere, the tractor company, was still forcing farmers to use proprietary diagnostic software. A farmer couldn't fix his own tractor, a machine he'd paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for, without paying John Deere for access to the repair codes. This isn't about protecting intellectual property. This is about control, about making sure that even after you've bought the product, you're still dependent on the company, still paying rent on something you supposedly own. And it's not just tractors, it's phones, it's laptops, it's cars, it's medical devices. The entire economy is being restructured around the idea that you never really own anything. You just lease it forever. But old tech doesn't have that problem. A tractor from 1970 doesn't have software. It has an engine and hydraulics and parts you can see and touch and understand. And if it breaks, you fix it. or you find someone who can. The knowledge isn't locked behind a paywall. It's in manuals. It's in the minds of mechanics who learned their trade before everything became a black box. And those tractors, those old machines, they're selling for a premium now because farmers figured it out. They realized that the new equipment, with all its computers and sensors and proprietary bullshit, it's a trap, so they're buying old iron, restoring it, keeping it running, because it's cheaper, because it's more reliable, because they own it. You can do the same thing. Not with tractors, unless you're a farmer, but with the things in your life. Start small. Next time something breaks, before you buy a replacement, ask yourself if you can fix it. Look up a repair guide. Watch a video. Try. Even if you fail, you'll learn something. You'll learn how the thing works, how it's put together. And that knowledge, that understanding, it's valuable. It gives you power. And power, real power, the kind that doesn't come from a corporation or a government, it comes from self-sufficiency, from knowing that you can take care of yourself and the people you love without depending on a system that sees you as a resource to be extracted. The philosophical shift here is profound. We've been conditioned for generations now to see ourselves as consumers. Our identity is tied to what we buy, the brands we wear, the devices we carry, the services we subscribe to. But that's not who you are. That's just a story they told you so you'd keep buying. The truth is simpler and more terrifying. You are not what you own. You are what you do. You are the choices you make, the relationships you build, the skills you develop. And none of that requires an upgrade. None of that requires a subscription. It just requires you to wake up and realize that the game is rigged, and the only way to win is to stop playing. Old tech is your defense, because it's the last territory that's still yours. It's the last place where ownership means something, where you can hold a thing in your hands and know that it's yours, completely, with no strings attached, no licensing agreement, no cloud dependency, no kill switch waiting for the day you stop paying. And in a world that's increasingly designed to strip you of autonomy, of privacy, of control, that matters. It matters more than convenience, more than features, more than being able to unlock your phone with your face. So here's what I'm telling you. Reject the upgrade. Not all of them, not blindly, but reject the idea that you need to upgrade. Question it. Every time they tell you the old model is obsolete, ask why. Ask who benefits. Ask what you're really giving up. And when you find something that works, something that's built to last, hold on to it. Maintain it. Repair it. Refuse to let it become part of the waste stream. Because every time you do that, every time you choose durability over disposability, you're taking a small piece of power back. And if enough people do that, if enough people step off the treadmill, the whole system starts to shake. This isn't about going back to the past. This is about reclaiming the future. A future where you own your tools instead of renting them. Where your devices serve you instead of surveilling you. Where the things you buy don't come with an expiration date designed to maximize someone else's profit. That future is possible, but only if you're willing to see the present for what it is, a con, a grift, a system built on the belief that you'll keep consuming until there's nothing left. And the only way out is to stop believing, to stop participating, to find another way. Your grandfather's tools are still in the garage. His camera still works. His records still play. And none of them need an update.